Hello and welcome to Bangalore International Centre's very own podcast, BIC Talks. Bangalore International Centre is a platform for informed conversations, exchange of ideas, and a space for arts and culture. BIC Talks brings the essence of all that the physical space stands for and more to your doorstep.
Hi, I'm Pavan Srinath and welcome to BIC Talks. At the Bangalore International Centre, we are happy to announce a new World Lit series on world literature in partnership with the Bangalore Literature Festival. BLF has been a grand annual celebration in Namma Bengaluru every year for the last 8 years. The World Lit series will feature 2 events every month, a podcast episode here on BIC Talks and a live event on BIC Streams. In our first World Lit podcast episode today, we are excited to have best-selling author Chetan Bhagat join us from Singapore to talk to us about books and the future of publishing in 2020 and beyond. Anchoring the conversation today is Bangalore's very own Shrabonti Bagchi, journalist and currently the National Features Editor at Mint. Chetan and Shrabonti, welcome to BIC Talks.
Hi, Chetan.
Hi, I'm happy to be here.
And Shrabonti, over to you.
Thanks so much for the intro, Pavan. And hi, Chetan. It's great to talk to you after ages. I think we met a couple of times at LitFest earlier, but it's great to catch up today with the BIC-BLF talks. How have you been, Chetan? And I just wanted to kick off by asking you, how has your life changed in the past 2-3 months?
There have been some changes for sure in terms of 1 or 2 aspects of my work life, which is being, I think, motivational speaker, which I do quite a lot of talks and events, maybe around 50 a year, and that involves a lot of travel. So in the last year, I took 100 flights. I checked the data on my travel dates, and now in the last 3 months, I haven't traveled at all. So I think that aspect is completely gone from my life, something I've been doing for the last 10 years. So anything collaborative, anything working with people is completely gone. However, I must say that a part of a writer's life is always in lockdown mode anyway. Somewhat of a more of a popular writer. Even for them, the popularity part that you see is like a iceberg, like that 10% of the iceberg on top you see. 90% of the time, if you are a real writer, you're sitting in your room writing. And I had just spent that 9/10 of the iceberg portion, the entire of 2019, and I had a new book ready to come out now. In fact, we would be launching my book now. And then this lockdown came. And in a way, the entire launch plan, entire events, everything, we had partners, everything had to be put on hold. And I was back in the lockdown mode, which my body and mind really resisted. I actually didn't want to do it. I said I deserve now to be out there and sell and promote and attend events, not just sit in my room and write, because I did that. The whole of 2019 was a lockdown for me. And now there's one more lockdown, and because that's the only thing I can do. So I'm sitting and writing. So in that sense, it has been resistance I had to fight within myself. But the positive is that I'm writing more, which is always a good thing for a writer.
Of course. And also spending time with family, because I mean, although we live together with our families, everybody's out there doing their own stuff. So how has it been? I mean, being inside the house?
Yeah, well, there is people often spend less time with their family. And then there is something called spending more time with your family. And then I think there's something called spending too much time with your family. I think this lockdown has given people a flavor of everything right now. Jokes apart, yeah, I mean, I've been at home for 3 months. I've never been like this. I mean, in the last 10 years, I've been traveling on talks. And before that, I was working in a bank, which was also a fair amount of travel. I was in Hong Kong in an investment bank and used to cover countries around the region. So every 2 weeks, every week, I'd be traveling a little bit. So 3 months of, not seeing an airport is strange. I almost was missing a cold towel that you get in a flight. I was making one in the bathroom myself.
So, but last year also you said that since you were writing and kind of, on a self-imposed lockdown mode, you didn't travel that much last year, or did you?
No, I did. So there was a lockdown mode, but it wasn't like this kind of a lockdown, but there was a lot less, in a sense, travel, and there was no book launches, and there was no interviews, and there was nothing like that. Maybe I'd do a few talks here and there, but broadly my job was to just sit and write. So it was one of those, I alternate. 1 year I write and 1 year I kind of put myself out there, learn, get experiences. I mean, the talks I do is also material for my books because I travel around the country, but that got almost like cancelled in a way or postponed postponed heavily for a few months, I think.
So now what is your everyday routine like? Like, do you have a time set apart to write, time set apart to research? How is your writing life shaping up? And what other things do you do during the day?
I think it's important to have a routine. Very important to do something with your life at this time, because suddenly the people you are accountable to all disappear. Like for students, the teacher is gone, or for an employee, the boss is gone. And maybe freelancers do this anyway and writers do this anyway. But for a lot of us, we do things because somebody expects us to do it and we have to make this presentation on that day or whatever else people do. When a lockdown happens, you are your own boss, your own parent, your own disciplinarian. And I think if you don't have that rhythm or routine to your life, it can really go haywire and be in a very unhappy and listless kind of mood, I think. And at least I tried it myself. I tried, like I said, the first few days, I just was in denial. I was like, this is not happening. I have launched my book. It's ready. I have the poster ready. I have the cover ready. I have everything ready. And but then I realized I'm not really enjoying this sitting around doing nothing, watching Netflix all the time, and then waiting when will things get lifted, checking the news and when will someone give a speech at what time and tell us what is open, what is not. I thought this is not a way to live. I have to kind of accept this as, in a way, it's like a gift of pause and time where you can use to focus on things that you've ignored. And, for me, it was just, I have a book ready to release, but I'm writing another one now because that's the one productive thing I can do. And on my fitness, I thought I can use this time to either eat myself too much, overeat, which a lot of us are, or I can finally say, you know what, I have time and I don't have distractions and invitations and buffet breakfasts at hotels I'm staying in. So maybe I can regulate my diet a bit better. So I decided to do that also.
Great. Okay, right. Oh, that's great to know. And mad respect.
It's difficult. It's very difficult in a lockdown. You feel like nobody loves me, I deserve a laddu. But, that's not a good logic.
Exactly. And you're like, you want a snack all the time.
Yeah, it's like at a train, right? When we were kids, I don't know, my we used to go on these long, long train journeys. And I would find that people eat in a train on a long journey just to pass time. So it's a bit like that. How much content can you really watch? So you're like, okay, chalo, let's have a snack and let's pakode banate hain. But, it's all going to stay in you. So the lockdown will get over, but the fats are going to get locked in your waist for a very long time.
What we just spoke about, the whole pandemic, it's changing the way we live, work, play, interact with friends, professional life, our careers, the way we do our work, everyday work. So, it's a game changer in so many ways, right? And so as an author, how are you reacting to this? Do you have a million thoughts, plots, ideas sort of buzzing through your head? How are you making sense of all this?
Yeah, I think this is going to change our art and culture for the medium term for sure. Even after this gets lifted, all our art, TV shows or books or whatever songs, somewhere down the line, the influence of this period is going to come. It's just that we are going through it right now. So we don't know where it ends. We don't know what it all means in totality. So I think this is an unprecedented human experiment that has happened where people have been tied up. And right now we are seeing the implication on the corona cases and all this science behind the lockdown. But the emotions behind the lockdown are not being understood yet. And at least for me as a writer, that will be fascinating. What is it like for people to be away from each other, which some people are, from friends, from girlfriends, boyfriends, even parents, they live elsewhere, or siblings. And what is it like to be in close proximity for months within a family? And does that bring out some issues which would may not have been brought out for 5 years, maybe? So I think all those things are very fascinating to me. And I'll just have to live through this and see how it changes people emotionally to kind of then see how it affects our stories and everything. But it's definitely something like one of those psychological experiments you do with mice by putting them in a box or a cage for a while and then see how they behave. So obviously it's going to change us. It's going to change us emotionally. Not too much, but somewhat. And I think that will make very interesting stories.
Is the new work you're working on, has it emerged from this situation?
There is some reference. It is set I didn't want to write about the lockdown, but it's definitely set in a period which is after the lockdown. Like I'm right now I write romantic stories and crime thrillers, but think about this. If a crime occurs right now, I mean, it's really difficult, for it to get noticed, to solve it. And so there is a lot of issues like that are happening.
Yeah. So it's also fertile ground in a sense for writers.
Definitely. Or people in relationships which weren't long distance, but now every relationship is long distance, unless you're actually living in the same house, which most boyfriends and girlfriends are not, So, but it's suddenly all long distance. So I guess it brings out whether you're compatible in that or not.
I mean, yeah, romance definitely is going to change, or it's going to have great impact on that, how we conduct our relationships, right? Are there any ways that, I mean, have you reflected upon this and thought of ways in which, what are the long lasting effects on society going to be going forward?
So I think it brings out certain positives as well as some negatives about our society. It's really like, they say that the true character of a person comes out in a crisis. And I think it's not just a person, it's also a society or a city or a country. And that's what coronavirus has done, is it's really brought out what you were all about. And it has taken the bravado out of it, and it has taken your bluster and all that, and it's told you what it's about. On the positive side, it has shown that human beings are still one, because it is such a universal problem, and it affects only human beings. And it doesn't matter what passport you have or what religion you have. It's like from Brazil to Korea to India, everywhere, USA, I mean, everywhere people are getting affected by it. So it kind of brings humanity together in a very perverse sort of way, that, we are all same and we don't need to therefore fight and kill each other. Having said that, it also brings out certain aspects of our society on how different we are, even though we are similar. Like I am discussing with you. My problem is I have to sit in my room and write on a laptop. That's my level of suffering, right? Whereas you see some of those videos of migrant labor floating around, and you're like, wow, man, that's also my India. Now, I have lived in Mumbai. It's not like people who live in Mumbai see poverty up close every day, right? But nothing kind of prepares you for what has been coming on television. And you're like, wow, this is how their lives hang. They can't take a couple of weeks off. I mean, forget vacation. They can't take time off work to sit at home, because they will go hungry, or they will suffer, or they will literally be forced to walk thousands of miles or hundreds of miles. So I think those aspects are coming out, and that has shown the kind of apathy we have towards this underclass. Like we always see an electrician come to our house, a plumber come, he does his or her job, and they leave, and that's it. We interact. We may be nice to them also, we may offer them a cup of tea or some biscuits and some money and be polite to them, and that's all good. But we never saw them walking like this on the road, or like their families. It's like the Parasite movie playing out in real life, whereas it's all out there, like when that rain comes. I don't know, I'm giving that Parasite movie reference for those who've seen it. It's about this Korean movie about this rich people and poor people, and when it's raining, they say, wow, what a spectacular weather. And when it's raining for the poor people, it's like their house is getting flooded.
There was this column by Busy Bee. I don't know if you remember. There used to be this Bombay writer. He used to write a column for Midday, if I'm not wrong, and he had said that Bombay rains really make that difference between the haves and the have-nots. People like us can sit on our balconies, eat chai pakoda and enjoy rain, and for people living on the streets, the rains are a completely different thing altogether.
Yeah, and I don't just write stories and emotions. As somebody who's been writing columns, as somebody who's worked in banks, somebody who's been involved in jobs that involve foreign investments and things like that, I find it appalling that we have not done enough to make our country richer. And this is the price. Now, of course, whatever people are doing their best now. Every CM, every minister, every even PM, everybody's trying to do their best to solve this. I don't doubt it for a second. But what have we been doing for the last 10, 20 years? And this is a result of that. Like take Bombay. It is a losing battle against Corona. And it's because we have slums, and we have never said we are going to lowly remove these slums and make nice small 1-bedroom but pakka units for all these people, so that people don't live in slums. We just have not been serious about it. We've done some SRA kind of schemes, but it's obviously not to the extent that it has really managed to get the slums converted to proper houses. And now we lock down and tell people in the slums too that we are going to snatch your livelihood, because that's not, you have to make sure that the slums get upgraded. So I think all that has come out, India's bluster of us being this superpower, or everybody's jealous of us, or we are so great and we nobody can mess with us. It's very hard to keep up that narrative right now because we've been hit very badly by this because there is we are poor people. Just a poor person in India is hurt more by coronavirus. A poor country like India is hurt more by coronavirus than the US or Europe. And we are going to be seeing it in the years to come.
Since we are talking about changes, also, publishing, entertainment, everything is going through a sea change, right? Nobody is shooting anything new right now. But at the same time, movies that had been shot before are being released digital first. Do you think that these will be long-lasting changes in terms of, firstly, books and publishing, and secondly, entertainment as well, like TVs and movies, because of course you are also associated with that. So much of your work has been adapted for the screen. So how do you see those changing and even as we speak, is there anything that has happened that is an interesting point to you or a pointer towards the future?
So there was a certain secular trends that were happening anyway without the coronavirus. The adoption of streaming, like what we call web series in India, but like basically streaming stuff like Netflix and Amazon Prime and Hotstar was already underway. They were all growing 20, 30, 40% a year. These were changes already happening. Now, what has happened due to coronavirus is some of these changes have been pushed, like from 5 years, the same change has happened in 3 months. And I think that was a bit unexpected, but these changes were anyway going to happen. The convenience and the value proposition of Netflix or a Prime is too high compared to watching movies in theaters. You will still watch some, but the 600 rupees for a month of unlimited versus 300 rupees for one ticket with traffic and then popcorn extra is just too much. It's just never going to work. So I think these trends were happening. And in the last 3 months, while the stock markets have been down all over the world, Netflix has actually been up, Amazon has been up, and Netflix added 16 million subscribers. And there have been 6 million corona cases so far. And so Netflix added 3 times as many subscribers. So, clearly there is a very strong change in that direction that has happened. It's going to get back to normal. Of course, it's not like people are never going to go out and never going to watch movies, but it is definitely something that would have happened, say 5 years later, has happened in 3 to 5 months.
So it has become accelerated.
Yes, a lot, almost like a quantum jump.
Do you see books and publishing changing, at the same pace or any sort of major impact on that? Or do you think that books are pandemic proof?
We will see. We will see what happens. I think books have kind of been assaulted by the digital invasion anyway for the last many years. And so they have stabilized now to a level where they can almost survive anything. Because when you had your phone with cheap data and you could watch videos all day long and people were still buying some books, I think that level is there to stay. So I think they will remain. I think the lockdowns made it difficult for people to buy physical books. But I think what may happen, and I think it is kind of happening, is people start valuing books more when they have an overload of content. How many videos can you watch? How many episodes can you watch? How many YouTube or Instagram updates or whatever? It just clutters your head up, and reading gives a certain peace of mind which these watching videos just doesn't give. And I think there could be a resurgence in reading when the fascination with watching these shows kind of ebbs a little. When people have watched, like there was a time when Netflix you would just keep binge watching, but I think now people know that it's not worth it. You shouldn't binge watch too much. It will calm down and people will rediscover the joy of reading. And I am hoping that happens, even though I do work in other things, but I think that will happen. And I think online shopping is getting more and more popular. So in India, especially, a lot of places, there are no bookshops to buy fiction or to buy like books which are not textbooks. So online has been helping in that a lot last 5-7 years. But like because there has been a quantum jump, a lot more people will say, okay, if I want to read a book, I can buy it right now. That will happen in tier 2, tier 3 cities. So that will help books. So I think there will be some help to books.
Since you were talking about, that you're ready with the book, you were ready to sort of hit the, promotion circuit, do book launches, signings and everything. How do you think that's going to pan out now? And would you like to tell us a little bit about the book that you're ready with, or is that hush-hush?
Yeah, I have a very Apple kind of marketing strategy where everything is revealed at one go. And we put in a lot of work on the book, and there's a promo and there's a trailer and there's everything. So it would not take away something if I start releasing bits on it. What I just spoke to like my publisher yesterday, and they said they could maybe look at doing something September, October. We could release it, but everybody's just speculating in a way. I think maybe by when we come out of this, there suddenly will be a demand for interesting and new content because people would have seen all the web series there are, and all the things that need to be watched. So it's about finding that right time where things have come back, but and people are hankering for new content, but distribution is still easy. My biggest fear is like, a lot of the sales still happen on physical bookstores, in malls, in airport bookstores, and if not that many people are flying through airports or going to malls, my publisher may not want to do it. So I'll just wait it out with them. It's okay.
But will you miss the interactions, with fans and meeting people?
Yeah, man. I mean, the Zoom thing. I mean, we are doing this on Zoom, and Zoom's great, but it's like, and what's the worst is like people who have to go to college through Zoom. I mean, I feel so bad for them. I don't remember any class from college. I only remember my friends and roaming around college and my hostel and all the other things we did. I don't remember even one class, and maybe that's a bad thing, but people think that going to college is about can be replaced by attending Zoom classes. They are wrong.
Absolutely. My daughter is just starting. She's in 8th standard. She's starting online classes next week. And it actually breaks my heart a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's okay for a couple of days and it's okay for a partial substitution. But the learning comes from interacting with people, making friendships, talking to professors, and it's not same thing with book launches. So if it's not going to be the real thing, I know that social media, but this has already been happening, believe it or not. In my last book launch, we did a couple of cities, but the other cities, literally, you actually can do a calculation that the cost of doing a book launch in, say, a Lucknow versus the cost of putting the same money in an Instagram promotion in Lucknow, and how many copies of books are sold. And we often found that in certain cities, apart from the big ones, like Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, there's a lot of media, so there are other reasons to do the book launch. But in otherwise, it's just more efficient and better to just do internet promotion of a book on Facebook, put the money targeted to that city youth, and they will pick up a Chetan Bhagat book, 10 Chetan Bhagat actually going there and doing a launch. While it's very clever algorithm and it's a lot of computer intelligence, it's also a little sad, isn't it?
Since we were talking about young people, I think this is a time, it is especially challenging for young people who are coming into the job market, people who are graduating. I mean, they are losing that sense of camaraderie that comes with an actual graduation and everything. So, and you are somebody who's had, that kind of that feel of the youth, of course, and all your books are about young people, your characters are young people. What do you feel right now? Like, what do you think they are going through, and kind of what would your advice to them be?
Yeah, in fact, I've been doing a lot of webinars these days, and it is, I just did one with college, which is doing hotel management. Now, imagine the students graduating out of hotel management right now when all the hotels are shut. Not exactly and then you have told that you please study how to run a hotel for 4 years, and guess what? Every hotel in the world is shut. So that's not easy to motivate that crowd, I can tell you that. But I was telling them this, that it's not like these things are going to go stay shut forever. It's not possible. Because people love to entertain themselves, people love to travel. That's why people live. And it's not like human beings are born to, just stay at home or something like that. So it will come back. It may be the last sector to come back, but it will come back maybe 6 months and a year. And in a long career, it doesn't matter. And I said, listen, let us say if you could graduate right now and get a job, you'd start working in a hotel and you'll feel good. I get a salary. But let us say you use this time to learn a bit of Chinese, because there are a lot of Chinese tourists all over the world now, a lot of Chinese travelers, they are going. Now, if you know a bit of Chinese and you work in the hotel industry, that could be a very big asset for you. But you would never learn Chinese otherwise, because you would actually be sucked into your job. So in a way, if you use this time to gain a skill like that, when things come back, you'll be better equipped. So it just is a way how to look at things. And I think you can always try to equip yourself with some skill. It's not easy and it's not fun maybe, but there is something to be done productively to make use of this time, even in the worst hit industry.
And for others?
I guess it's telling you early in life that life is never certain. Things will never be the same, and things will never be how you expect them to be. But that also means that the bad things will also not be there forever. And maybe there were certain assumptions you had and things you took for granted. And you will now know that one should not take things for granted because anything can be changed anywhere. So, yeah, it is unfortunate. But maybe you can have a reunion, have a big reunion and things are back. Tell your batch, we missed our graduation. Let's have an early reunion instead of a 10th reunion or a 20th reunion. You do a second reunion. Come back and party hard. That's what I do.
And any advice, Chetan, for a first-time author? I mean, because I think a lot of people are looking at this time and, everybody, like they say, everybody's a lover, everybody's a poet. I think people are, because we are living through such extraordinary times that I'm sure a lot of people are kind of, thinking of taking the plunge. Any advice for first-time authors from like a veteran like you?
Yeah, there is, I can't tell you, you're right. Everybody, or maybe because I'm an author, I've met hundreds of people in my career who come and tell me, I also want to write a book. I really have been wanting to write a book. And I always tell them, so write it. Take pen and paper or take a laptop and just get going. Write a bad book, but write it. And then they say, I don't have time, I don't have time. And I'm like, I want to look for those people now in the lockdown that, hey, here's the time now, about now. So, and if you are not writing now, then it wasn't a lack of time. It's a lack of discipline. As simple as that. Because writing, like I said, the 9/10 of the iceberg is very boring lockdown type life, which is basically less to do with writing, more to do with discipline.
Right. So do you have like a particular time when you write? Do you set aside time from your schedule?
I write in the morning. If I'm writing, I'm pretty serious about it. I would write. I'll get up in the morning. I'll maybe listen to something motivational. I'll have some tea and then I'll start writing and then I'll have lunch and I'll write some after lunch. And by 4 or 5 o'clock, I want to be done with it. Whatever my writing is, I set certain criteria that I have to write this today and I have to reach a certain word count or finish an article or something like that. And then only then will I finish my work for the day. And yeah, that's how I do it. And then maybe I'll try to do something related to fitness. And yeah, it's very simple, non-glamorous, rinse, repeat kind of life. So be careful when you say that you want to be a writer because it's very rinse, repeat. And 9/10 of the iceberg is not glamorous at all.
Same for journalists, by the way. So
yeah, it's the same. The byline is a very small, and like the reaction to your work is a very small portion of the actual work, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And sometimes the most difficult thing is to just put pen to paper or virtually. Like so I tell my juniors that even if you're not writing anything meaningful, just write rubbish, but break that ice.
But right, get into the habit, like they say to singers, ab riyaz zarur karna hai.
Exactly.
So you have to do your riyaz, you have to write. Nobody's expecting. And I think I have found like, because I write popular fiction and I've never had pretensions on being a certain kind of like writer, I find a lot of good writers get trapped in the masterpiece trap because they've read good books. And I think it's great to read good books and I do read them. But it is also, there is something like, it's great to listen to motivational talks, but if you listen to 50 or if you listen to 100 and not actually do something about it, it's useless. Same is with diet and same is with reading too much and thinking that you'll only write when you can write a masterpiece. And it doesn't happen like that. Even the people who wrote masterpieces never said, oh, today I'm going to write a masterpiece. It just happened. After 100 times they wrote, once a masterpiece came out, like that.
That's very good advice, Chetan. Yeah, that's very good advice for everyone. Thanks so much, Chetan. Thanks, Pavan.
Thank you for doing this.
Thank you both for coming on BIC Talks. This was an absolute pleasure. Thank you for listening in till the end. Please share this episode with a friend on social media, WhatsApp, or anywhere else. It would mean the world to us. And in case you're listening via iTunes or Apple Podcasts, please leave us a rating and a review. Subscribe to BIC Talks on email or your favorite podcast app and don't miss out on future episodes. This episode of BIC Talks has Gaurav Krishna as our sound engineer, with support from S. Sarvanaraj and Lekha Naidu. And the accompanying episode artwork was made by Chandni Venkataraman.
Thank you for listening to this episode of BIC Talks. This podcast can be accessed on our website, bangaloreinternationalcenter.org, as well as on any of your favorite podcast platforms. Tune in for new episodes every week. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages to stay informed on our latest updates.